everybody, I'm Anna, I'm one of the two mythical unicorns. Welcome to our channel and to this video. It is great to have you here. Please support our channel by giving this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Now let's talk some books. A few weeks ago I saw a video on Kathy Tryhart's YouTube channel. I think that is how you pronounce it, I'm sorry otherwise. But she was talking about read your shelves, and that was something she was gonna host in January with Read Books, Love Books. We will link that down below, and I decided that yes, I wanna do this. I buy books and I plan to read them, and sometimes they just disappear into the background. So I decided that yes, I want to do this. I also want to read more Swedish books this year, so I thought that was a great way to force myself to do that, because I have a few Swedish books in my bookshelf that I haven't read. So they have this picture schedule. I don't know, but we will put it over here if everything works. And I say we, but Michelle is the one who's doing the editing, so I can't really take any credit for it. But yeah, so there are 25 prompts for books. I will not be able to read 25 books in January. That is just not gonna happen. So I just decided that, well, I'm gonna do as many as possible. I'm gonna do as many as I can, and we will see where that goes. And I decided to start off easy. So for my first one, I decided to go with the graphic novel, and I read They by Sara Bergman, Elfgren and Carl Jonsson. It is a Swedish graphic novel. It is translated into English, so if there's anyone out there who doesn't know Swedish and wants to read it, it is available in English. And this is really good. I bought it for Alex as a birthday gift, and I bought it at the book fair, so I actually got it autographed for him. He hasn't gotten around to read it yet, but I did at least. And I really enjoyed it. It is some Norse mythology. There are some giants, and there are the Norse gods and fighting, and so it's really good. It is part 1, part 2 is available. I will buy it, I will read it, but not until later this year, because read your shelf. So yeah, this was the first one. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. The artwork, I'm gonna find something good. Like, it is beautiful, it is stunning, and it forced me to slow down in the reading as well and look at the pictures and not just go through the text, but actually look at the pictures and let them tell the story as well. So really good, recommend it, and that was it for today. I will see you when I have an update. It is January 4th, a few days later, and I finished another book, which is this one. And it was a Christmas gift, so I'm putting it on the gift square. And the original title that I'm looking for is The Little Shop of Happily Ever After. And I got it in a Swedish edition, so it's translated into Swedish, but is available in English because that's the original language. And it's about a woman who is 29 years old, and she is about to lose her job and now is trying to figure out what she's about to do next. She has worked as a librarian, and she's always wanted to own her own bookstore and find the right books for people. So now she's trying to figure out how to do that and not go into corporate mass media, social media, media centers. She likes books, and that is what she wants to do. And that is the story that we get to follow on how she gets to do that in her own way. And I really enjoyed it. It was a bit cheesy at some points, mostly at the right time, but sometimes I went a little, that could be the translation, or that's just what you get in these books. It's a very feel-good book, really nice. I felt a lot of the time I felt like I could recognize myself in her and I could feel with her, and sometimes I felt like, well, this is a book. It's a made-up story, but it's really enjoyable, it's really sweet, it's easy to read. Would recommend it. It's nothing heavy, nothing, you know, hard to read, to cope with. It's easy to just lay down in the couch and go through it, or read it on the bus while you're commuting or something like that. Really good. Would recommend it. And I'll see you next time I have an update. It is now January 10th and I'm here for my next update. I've been reading Faithlessness by Imre Kertész, and I hope that's how you pronounce his name. I've read the Swedish translation because I can't read the original one. He's or was from Budapest, and it's not an autobiography, but it's sort of based on his experience and his knowledge, because he was Jewish and he was in the concentration camps during the Second World War. And because of that, it is very heavy to read. It is so good, but it's very heavy and horrible, so it took me a while to get through it, even though it's not that long. Not very hard to read, it's just hard to take it all in. And the main character is 14 or 15 in the beginning of the book, and it's just how he experiences his everyday life. He doesn't really know what's going on in the war, like around in Europe. He's just noticing the changes in his everyday life and his own surroundings. And in the beginning, I didn't get into it that well, and I thought he was a bit cold, and that was just my experience from it. But the further into the book I got, the more it grabbed me, and it's just really well written. Imre Kertész, he won the Nobel Prize in 2002, so he's a very recognized author. It's about a boy who, first his father is sent to a concentration camp, and then he has to work. He's not allowed to go to school, so he has to work in a special fabric, and then he is just taken off a bus, and then he's sent to concentration camp, and how he kind of survives there. So it's very intense and very horrible. It's very important to remember what happened. So if you want to read a World War II story, this is one I would highly recommend. And that was it. So until next time. It is 2 days later and I've finished yet another book. This one I'm putting on the corner spot where you get to choose your own category, and I'm choosing audiobook because I've been listening to this as an audiobook that I had in my bookshelf on the app. And it's a Swedish one and it has no translation. So the Swedish title is Mörkstad, which literally translates to dark town. And I know that there's another book called that. It is not that one. It is another one. And it's written by J.S. Axel. And I listened to that on audiobook. And it's a dystopian, but for grown-ups. Because I've been reading a lot of YA dystopians in my days. But this time it's an adult version. And I really enjoyed it. There is this virus that has been spreading and people are turning into zombies or vampires. They are not entirely sure, but they want to eat humans. And it's about There are several different characters, and it's about how they made their way into the safe haven that has been created in Stockholm, and how they live inside there, and there are secrets, and it's very controlled for their safety and relationships and horror nightmares. But yeah, it was something very different from what I usually read. I read it because I have an internship this semester, and the publishing company that I'm doing my internship has published this book. And I really enjoyed it. It was really nice. It was not a good idea to listen to it while I walked to and fro the basketball practice in complete darkness. It was the first time I went to that particular sports hall. I went alone in the darkness, and I listened to when infected people wanted to eat the healthy people. That was not a good idea. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. So that one is not translated, but if there are any Swedes out there that would like to listen to it, or read it for that matter, I just haven't gotten around to buy the book. I decided to listen to it instead. So if there's any Swedes out there, I would recommend it if you're looking for something like that. I'm back for another update. It is the 16th today, and I've gone through 2 other books. When I was listening to the last one, I realized in my app that I had a few books in my digital bookshelf that were about to be removed from the service. So I decided that I had to get to them rather quickly before they were removed. There was a particular one, a trilogy by Paul Hoffman, that I wanted to listen to, but I only had time to get through the first 2 ones, and I didn't have time for the 3rd one. But anyways, those were The Left Hand, The Left Hand of God and The Last 4 Things. And I put that on a new author for me and a sequel. And it's about 3 boys who are orphans and are raised by priests, monks, not religious dudes. Don't remember what they call them. They are trained to be soldiers, fighters for the Holy Redeemer, and this takes place in some kind of futuristic world where things have gone to not good places. It's about the 3 of them, and they are living in this convent sort of place, and they are trained really hard and have to learn things, and they eat the same food every single day. They are not allowed to make friends. And then one of these boys finds a door, because keys are very important, because keys unlock doors, and the higher up one of these religious dudes are, the more keys they have to open more doors, and the boys are not allowed to own any keys at all. They are not allowed to own anything at all. But one of these 3 boys, he finds a secret door that no one knows about, and the 3 boys figure out how to open it, and they go into some secret tunnels. They see some people enjoying themselves. It's a party. There are girls, and they have never seen girls before. And a few days later, one of these boys, he is doing an errand for one of the religious dudes. I should remember what they are called. He's doing an errand, and he comes by an open door where one of the other religious dudes are, and he's kind of slicing a girl open and kind of picking her apart, and he kind of loses it, kills the religious dude, and saves the other girl, because there were 2 girls, and now they have to flee. And that is what this is about. And it was really, really good. I enjoyed the first one more because the second one there is a lot of war strategy, which I didn't. It's not my thing, but in the end we got back to more of what was in the first one. So when I get my hands on the third one, I am excited for that. And that was it for now. It is now the 18th and I have another update today, or the first one. I've read 2 books today, manga. And the first one is Noragami, volume 19, Trial by Pledge. And this is a reread. Noragami is the only manga that I buy because it's expensive, and normally I prefer the anime. But Noragami I love. You can see the stack here, my books. So this is a reread, and then I read number 20, and that is from 2019, so it goes into that box. And Noragami is about a girl called Hiyori, and she is hit by a bus when she's chasing after a cat. Little does she know that that cat was chased by one of the gods called Yato, and the two of them become friends. And it's sort of a urban fantasy sort of story, and I just love it. I love it so much. Sweet and exciting and cute and all the things. I really enjoy them. I've had this on my nightstand for a while, and I was just looking for the right day when I could just relax, lay in the couch, and just enjoy reading this. But to remember what happened, I reread this one first. That was today's update. So it's another day. It is not another outfit because it's the weekend and who cares what I'm wearing. It's the 19th and I have a few other stories, a couple actually. So I read this one and I read this one. First we have, should have looked up what these are called in English. It's Oscar Wilde and 2 short stories. It's Lady Alroy and The Nightingale and the Rose, maybe it's called? That is the translation of what this is. Anyways, I bought a few Novelix boxes on the book fair in September. So I decided to read one of those, and this is classics. They are from the late 1800s, 1887 maybe? But yeah, so I'm putting this in the diverse box. And it's just 2 short stories about love. They didn't feel very romantic. But yeah, it was nice to just sit down and read while eating breakfast. And the second one, and I should have checked what they're called in English, which I didn't. The Lemon. If I translate this, it's called The Lemon. So we're going with that, by Arnost Lustig. And this one is going on the Own Voices. This is yet another Jewish author who lived through the Second World War. It's another story, it's a short story about a boy in one of the ghettos and how he's trying to save his family. This was not very fun because, you know, the Second World War. But I just think it's important to remember what happened, and I'm really fascinated by that period of time. So I bought another one of the boxes. I bought the romance and the extinction boxes with just short stories. So these are 2 of the short stories. That was the update I have for now. It has been a few more days. It is Thursday the 23rd and I finished 2 more books. And the first one is The Hypnotist by Kepler, and that is actually 2 authors. It is Swedish, The original is Swedish, but it has been published in like 60 countries or something like that. So it is available in other places than just Sweden. It is thriller, police, crime. Yeah, it is 10 years old. This is the black edition. So they went back and made some changes in the language, and this is like the new version. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's about a guy who's a hypnotist, and he gets a call. He doesn't do that anymore, but he gets a call about a boy who's in the hospital. His whole family has been murdered, and they are scared that his bigger sister that is living somewhere else, that she's in danger too. So they want him to come and do his thing on this boy to try to find the sister to keep her safe. And then things escalate, things happen, people are kidnapped, you know, the regular stuff. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. It's been such a long time since I read anything like this, and I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it. So it was a really good read for me. And next up we have 1793 by Niklas Natt och Dag. I don't know what that is, the name. And it takes place in the year 1793, obviously. And there's this major, I think he is, and he is called by some children because there is someone floating in the river. It turns out to be a corpse that has no arms, no legs, because they have all been amputated, and he has no tongue either. And then he and this other guy tried to solve the mystery of what happened to this guy and who did this to him and why, and you know, the story. And it all takes place in 1793, as you know. There is no scientific CSI things going on, and this was brutal. Like, mostly it's divided into 4 parts, and then you read the first part and then you start the second part, and then there are completely new characters, and it's still in Stockholm and it's still the same year, but everything is just new. And then you come to the third part and then it starts all over again, which I found a little annoying, but it all ties together in the end. But yeah, there are more in the series, but I felt this was a little too gruesome to me. Like, yeah, I read some of it on the train while I was going to my internship, and when I came there I felt like, well, maybe I don't need breakfast. And I love breakfast. A bit too gruesome for me. The language has some tones of, you know, those days. Mostly it's a good story. It's just there were some really gruesome parts that I did not enjoy. Otherwise it was good. So yeah, that was it, and I'll be right back. It's been another few days and I've finished another book, Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. And this was recommended to me by a friend because of a short story I wrote, and she was like, oh, well, you have to read this now. And this was a debut novel, which I sort of could tell, because I do this myself when I write and the story kind of gets too big and I need too much of the world to function and correlate, and I can't quite handle it. And that is sort of what I felt sometimes in this book. And also there are some times where the dialogue is a bit off, I think, and just some cliches. But in general, it was good. I enjoyed it, mostly. But the further into it I got, the more intrigued I also got. So I will probably pick up the next one as well. Probably both of them, because it's a trilogy. It's about 2 people, a boy and a girl, and it's in the future. So the girl lives with her people inside buildings, inside kind of like domes, and they never go outside because there's radiation and that kills them, sort of, and like the world has gone to shit. And then the boy, he lives outside with his people, and it's more like a medieval sort of world, so he doesn't have any technology, and he goes hunting and is really good at that, and he has a very strong sense of smell, and he can see very well at night, like special abilities. And the two of them meet because things happen, and it's the story about how they kind of try to help each other out, because she's thrown out of her society, and her society kidnaps his nephew. So they sort of meet up, they make a pact and try to help each other get what the other one wants. It's not the best book I've read, but like I said, I want to read the next part. I want to know what happens next, and it's an interesting premise. So yeah. It has been another few days. It is Thursday the 30th, so we're getting really close to the end. And yesterday I finished this one, Gullaschbaronen by Henry Falk. And as you can see, it's a O, not a U. It's a Swedish book. I don't think it has been translated. It takes place in Sweden in the 1910s. And it's just the story mostly from three people's perspectives and like what happens in society, and they are three very different people. It's two brothers and then a girl who they are from somewhere in the middle of Sweden, and then they move to Stockholm, and one of them is supposed to go to America, but he doesn't get that far, and the girl is from Visby. But yeah, so it's just like their life and their everyday and what happens during this period of time and how they cope with different situations. So yeah, it's not what I normally read, but it was good. I enjoyed it. So it's a hardback, so it goes on in the hardback kind of square. I really enjoyed it, and if you like these kinds of book, I think you will enjoy it too. And so January is over, it is February 1st, and I managed actually to finish one more book. I finished yesterday, and that is Sawbones by Katherine Johnson. And this takes place in 1792 in London, and it's about a boy who is a surgeon's apprentice. And then there is this corpse that shows up that he's a bit skeptical too, because they open up dead people to look inside and learn things, and there are people watching, and you know, because that is what you did back then. Then he meets this girl called Loveday and her father just died, and he promises her that he will find out what happened to her dad, because she does not believe that he died of natural causes. And then shit hits the fan. It's sort of a thriller, mystery kind of book, but told from the 17-year-old boy's perspective and in the late 1700s. And this, for some periods it was really good, and it just, I decided when I read, I was like, okay, I have other things to do, I'll just read 10 more pages, and then I had read 20 more pages. It's not that long, as you can see, but yeah, then I had read 15 or 20 pages, and then there were times when I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna read 10 more pages, and then I'm gonna do the things I need to do, and I read 5 pages, and it took me so long because I don't know. So this was really up and down for me. Like in general, I enjoyed it, and I felt that it had a very satisfying end. So mostly I enjoyed it. You had to have some patience to get through all of it and not skip parts. That is the last book. I bought it on vacation, which means that I now have a full row in my little square, and that makes me happy. And now Read Your Shelf January is over, and there were a few books. I said in the beginning of this video, in the beginning of the month, that there is no way that I'm gonna be able to fill all these squares and read this many books in a month. It's not gonna happen. So I'm very happy with how many books I actually had time to read. The last few years in January I've read like one book because I don't know what happened, but yeah, I just haven't felt like reading. So I felt like this was a really good motivation to keep up with reading. Then it became a lot of reading, more than usual. There are still 3 books that I wish I had been able to read during this time, except the ones that I read, and it is Cersei by Madeline Miller. It's a cover by, so if I remember it correctly, it was supposed to go in one of the corners, which would have helped to maybe getting closer to getting another full row. I've gotten like 2/3 into this and it's not really my kind of thing. So I was hoping that I could finish it during this month, but that did not happen. And next up we have this one, which is a Swedish fantasy, Ödesgudinnans val by Caroline Hurtig. And translated, that would be the goddess of destiny's choice, sort of. And this one I bought because I want to get more into Swedish fantasy and support that market and not just read like the fantasy from everywhere else, and actually support my own country's market. And this was supposed to go in the middle because that's what I wanted. And lastly we have Marcus Zusak, Bridge of Clay, but this is a Swedish version because I bought it in the book fair because I got it signed. I was fangirling so hard when that happened. As you can see, I've started it, but I haven't gotten that far, so I don't feel like I can say that I've read this in January, but I'm getting there. And this was supposed to go on an author I love square. I'm working on it. That was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you stayed this long, I'm very happy that you're still here. If you've done something similar or you just read something in January that you really enjoyed, I would love to know. And that was it. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time.